No one is anxious because of weakness. Please never believe that about yourself. Most of the time, it's a collaboration of a lack of systems, external collisions that keep hitting back to back with no break, and an internal language that was passed down, giving that feeling of overwhelm a constant place to live and dwell. But what's also apparent is that people who become anxious are extremely perceptive, imaginative, spiritually sensitive, and internally built to anticipate outcomes before others can even see them. So the problem is not the existence of imagination. The problem is when imagination loses government. A blueprint, someone who is wired to build, discern, foresee, protect, and even steward, can accidentally use their God-given foresight in the wrong direction. So instead of them designing futures and building systems or stewarding vision or even architecting a life that they actually want to live, they begin forecasting danger, rehearsing failure, scanning for betrayal, and even anticipating like a collapse. It's the same gift, but a different governance. And if that gift is not governed properly, what was meant to become wisdom can actually become torment. So today we're talking about the relationship between anxiety and creativity, specifically through the lens of a blueprint. Because many blueprints are not simply overthinkers. They're architects without order. Welcome to Come Sis With Me, the podcast, real talk, biblical wisdom, and practical tools. I'm your host, Mia Randall, your wellness architect, and each episode is designed to help you align, release, and create a life that you actually want to live. Honestly, it's more like my personal journal that I read aloud to my sisters in the world every week. But hey, come for the stories and strategies, stay for the sisterhood. Let's get into it. So, anxiety is often imagination without any order. Blueprints are not weak-minded people. They are highly perceptive. Spiritually aware, emotionally sensitive, and neurologically wired to forecast outcomes before they even happen. Ask me how I know. And the issue is never that we imagine too much. It's almost always that fear becomes the governing authority over imagination instead of actually using wisdom, our structure, our trust, and God simultaneously. Go back to some of the previous episodes that we did on fear specifically. But a blueprint mind can either architect vision or rehearse catastrophe. It's the same cognitive gift. It's just being governed in a different way. And architects that are blueprints, right, are simply people who are intentionally structured to build systems. They're wired to anticipate outcomes and steward environments. And so a blueprint, someone who's wired by God to build and structure and discern and cultivate and sustain, right? They rarely experience life passively. That wouldn't make sense, right? So everything is in a very assertive manner or even aggressive, right? And the mind is constantly mapping, connecting, forecasting, evaluating, and imagining things simultaneously sometimes. So they walk into rooms and subconsciously they're assessing the emotional atmosphere. They're looking at weak points. They're looking at where systems could be put in place. They're looking at like what this could look like in the future, potential outcomes. Even the most perceptive or discerning of us are like hidden. We can see hidden tension. Like, oh, those people in the corner look like they got something going on, right? And so we're able to recognize unspoken dynamics that, not everyone has the ability to see, but they're not trying to do this in a way that to control everything, right? It's just simply how they're wired. And even in scripture, we can see like blueprint minds appear everywhere. Nehemiah inspected ruins before rebuilding walls. Joseph forecasted famine before it actually arrived. Deborah discerned timing and strategy, and Daniel even interpreted patterns that so many others missed. And so blueprints are often future oriented by design. But wounded blueprints don't stop building either, right? They just simply begin building survival systems instead of kingdom systems. And that's kind of where I want to go today, is showing you the connection between anxiety and creativity, because they come from the same highway, right? Anxiety and creativity actually share neurological and psychological roots, because they both come from the brain's ability to imagine what does not exist yet. And that's the overlap. Creativity is asking you what could happen, right? Anxiety is saying what could go wrong. It's the same imagination, it's just a different interpretation. Both involve this pattern recognition or this future simulation, even like emotional sensitivity and this building of narratives at a heightened awareness of uncertainty. The same brain is innovating that can innovate is also catastrophizing at the same time, right? The same mind that can architect vision is also rehearsing collapse consistently in the background, right? And that's why the opposite of anxiety is not merely peace, in my opinion. The opposite of anxiety is order, because anxiety is often your imagination without structure, doesn't have any parameters. It's just out here doing whatever it wants. It's possibility without regulation. It's you being hyper aware of everything that's going on around you and all the things that could be going around you without any governance, without any proper lens or perspective to put it through. A blueprint mind sees so many outcomes simultaneously, and that can become uh, wisdom, or you can overload, right? And so the issue is not ever a blueprint mind is just thinking too deeply. I'm too deep. I'm just being too deep here. No, the issue is almost always whenever there's a possibility of something being started or built or potentially happening, all of those possibilities feel equally urgent. Nothing has like a proper place or position. Everything has to be done now. And that's when discernment turns into this hyper vigilance. Like we're just all over the place. That foresight then starts making way for other things to come in, specifically fear. Fear hijacks discernment. Some people call themselves discerning when they're actually dysregulated. And that's really important, because discernment and hypervigilance can seem similar in your body. Both create like this alertness, both notice shifts, both anticipate outcomes. But discernment is governed, right? Discernment is governed by God, heaven. Hypervigilance is exhausting. That's the world saying you got to do everything now and you have to do everything like I tell you to, right? Discernment is flowing from wisdom and peace, and hypervigilance is like fear and survival. One is about you listening, and the other one is about you scanning everything around you in comparison and fear and doubt and disbelief. And it's a overdrive of self-protection and self-preservation instead of being led by God. And so many blueprints have experienced enough instability and betrayal and disappointment and pressures, right? That their nervous systems have stopped asking, what is wisdom? Like, is this actually wise? And they started just telling themselves, are asking themselves, how do I actually prevent myself from being in pain? That shift changes everything. And that's the real root of anxiety. Um, Anxiety is growing where systems are absent, where pressure has become chronic and your internal language is just chaotic. There's no order to it. No one's anxious because they're weak. Please, don't believe that about yourself. Anxiety is a collaboration of things. It's these back-to-back collisions. It's this lack of the internal and external systems. It's emotional exhaustion. It's um this inherited internal language that taught you to be overwhelmed where you live. And some people grew up in environments where urgency was normal. Like you get it done now or there's going to be a problem. Chaos was normal, right? So why would I look for anything else? Why would I look for order? I've been taught that chaos is normal, so let me pray for peace instead of actually not being in a chaotic mood way, right? Not being emotionally unstable. Emotional instability was normal. Being responsible for everything was normal. So your blueprint nervous system has adapted to that. And so many people have become excellent forecasters. So many blueprint people have become excellent forecasters because forecasting felt safer than being vulnerable. If I can predict it, maybe I can survive it. And eventually, survival mode becomes identity. And some people no longer know how to rest because their imagination has only ever been trained to brace for impact. One of the most important things that I've learned about transitioning my nervous system or my internal language from what was inherited to what I actually steward is stillness, the practice of stillness. So many blueprints struggle with stillness because stillness removes the illusion of control, right? Movement feels like you're being productive, like you're being purposeful, like I'm being responsible, right? Um, Overthinking actually feels responsible. Like I'm thinking about all the outcomes. I'm doing well. But stillness forces me to trust God. Stillness forces me to trust, period, that I'm safe. And trust terrifies your dysregulated nervous system because it's learned survival through anticipation. And this is why some people can't rest without feeling guilty. They can't turn down or slow down without becoming anxious in the next moment, right? They're always um, scanning around, um, feeling unsafe about something because that's what they learned. They haven't practiced stillness. They don't know what it looks like to be still without turning my head on or keeping my head on a swivel. And I get it because some of us grew up in places where if your head wasn't on a swivel, you're catching a bullet. You're catching a hand. You're catching a mean, callous, evil word from someone who was supposed to protect you and honor you and love you, right? Scripture says, "Be still and know that I am God." And I know that that is cliche when such traumatic events have happened to in your life, in your blueprint life. But I want to free you by just saying stillness is not being inactive. Stillness is actually surrender. It's surrendering to the God of angel armies, who is the governing body of all things. And it's a decision to stop trying to mentally outrun every possible future because of what has happened in your negotiated past. So, blueprint people don't need less imagination. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying like be still and turn off your mind. I'm telling you, as a blueprint, you need regulation. You need some rhythms. You need some rest, right? Put some structure in place, a little bit of boundaries. It's going to take you a long way. Get some good community around you that reinforces safety. Sleep, girl. Sleep. Like, sleep. Give yourself a bedtime. I'm on a board of a book that's launching soon about how our rhythms, like a good start to your day, starts at night, right? With good sleep, with good habits at night to kind of prep you for the morning so that when you get up, you're already in a place of like, you can go, right? You can imagine, but there's some parameters around it because you had good sleep. Your clothes were picked out already. Your things that you need for the gym were already put together. And that's also a thing. Like move. Like don't just sit still. Like get up, go to the gym, take a walk. One of the things that I learned about like Japanese culture is they eat white rice, something that notoriously in the US we're like, don't eat that. That's bad for you. Carbs are bad. Right? But they walk. They literally walk everywhere. And they walk after eating. They move. They're not sitting still. Be honest with yourself, right? Emotional honesty allows you to breathe. It allows you to breathe. It allows you to remind your nervous system that you're safe. And if something is happening, it gives room for you to give language to it and put it where it properly needs to go. You're not just holding on to it. Because most of the time you're catastrophizing a future, right? Or an outcome because emotionally you have not dealt with the implications of what's happening right now. Sorry. I know that from personal experience. And some of you are trying to pray away anxiety while you're not even creating a life that can sustain peace and order, right? Like, so you're asking for peace. Let me pray away anxiety because that feels like it creates a life that's safe enough for your body to exist inside. When honestly, it's not always spiritual warfare. It'd be us. It's me. I'm the problem. I'm the reason why my nervous system is exhausted. God designed our bodies too, right? Like, so healing is not becoming less visionary, right? Stillness and doing all of these things that I just said, like practically, is not becoming less visionary, less kingdom like. Healing is learning how to hold vision without your body collapsing underneath of it. Because your imagination happens regardless, right? But if it happens without regulation, that is torment. That's torment to a blueprint. Imagination with wisdom, though, becomes a vision that will outlive you. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I'm here to tell you today, right? Like regulate your imagination with wisdom. The principal thing is wisdom. There's a whole book in the Bible about wisdom. Proverbs, read it. You get your life together. I think it smacks you upside your head a couple times. Like wisdom. And this is what I want blueprints to understand. Sensitivity is never going to be a problem. Your depths or how deep you are is never going to be the problem. Your imagination is not even the problem. The ability to see way past you is never the problem. The issue is always going to be when you allow fear to force you into a place of chaos and disorder. And then you become the architect of your life instead of God. We spent years using God-given architectural minds to build emotional bunkers instead of kingdom blueprints. But today I'm inviting you, I'm telling you, I'm offering a sense of wisdom through, experience, is that healing changes the function of the gift. So what once produced anxiety can now produce wisdom, right? Hypervigilance can be exchanged for discernment. And you don't have to run around exhausted thinking that that's the only way to be productive when you can just produce vision, right? And then strategy to go along with that vision so you can move into execution. That is what like proper productivity looks like. Is having a vision, having a strategic plan that helps you execute on what you're seeing or gives you discernment on maybe that vision is for someone else, right, to execute on. Either way, you're producing. That's being productive. You don't have to become less deep to be well. Like, you don't see all these crazy things out here in the world. People like go touch your ancestors and do those. That's that weird deep, right? Like that's that weird deep. Seeing vision, forecasting vision, seeing the future, putting together, allowing your creativity to put together all these different things that people have never seen or heard before. That's a good deep. That's a deep well that I don't mind drawing from every day of the week. But blueprints, you gotta regovern your imagination. You gotta put it in the proper position. You gotta put it where it belongs. Because blueprints do not just need strategy. They need order strong enough to hold the weight of what they can see. That's it. Today's conversation resonated with you or was meaningful in some way, share it with your sister, follow the podcast, and leave a review. Or if you want to share your story and help shape our sisterhood, go to www.thewellness-architect.com/podcast and click on Share Your Testimony. I would be honored to hold space for your voice. Thank you for coming for the stories and strategies and staying for the sisterhood. Until next time, sis, be well.